So as much as I absolutely love Christian Light education, the one downside to this curriculum is that there are a lot of things that are going to be shipped to you for one school year. Instead of giving you one giant textbook to work through throughout the year, you're actually given these smaller unit workbooks. These are called light units. You can see they're just like little paper books. And you get 10 of these books per subject per grade level. So if you have multiple children and you're using Christian Light education for multiple subjects, storage is going to become a problem. So I'm going to show you exactly how I organize our Christian Light units and our teacher's guides and all the materials just to make my life a little bit easier. So I'm going to show you math, for example. This is the teacher's guide that comes with the first grade math. Now I know I'm going to be using my teacher's guide every single day for every single lesson, so I am not going to put this away. I'm going to keep this out where I need it. But then we have all of these paper light unit workbooks, and I do not need to have all of these out at all times because we're only going to be working in one workbook at a time. What I do is I take the workbook off the top. They all have numbers on them so you know which workbook you're starting with. So the one that we're going to be starting with, that one stays out with my teacher's guide that I showed you a second ago. To make my life easier, I actually like to stick the light unit inside of my teacher's guide. So every day when it's time to do math, I can just pull out this whole thing. The remaining light units are all in order with the next workbook being on the top. So when we finish this light unit that I just put in my teacher's guide, all I have to do is pull the next one right off the top. So I highly recommend investing in either these magazine holder style book bins, or you can get the bigger ones that are kind of like wider in the back so you can have all of your light units just sitting up straight like that, unless you prefer to have them like this. These are our reading light units right here. So as soon as my daughter finishes the one that she's on right now, all I have to do is open the cabinet and just grab the next light unit off the top. And depending on what subject you're going to be doing with Christian Light education, a lot of times they do have flashcards. The math definitely has flashcard boxes like this. Even the reading and language arts have flashcards that I highly recommend getting to supplement your curriculum. I made the mistake of putting all of the flashcards away because I didn't like looking at these boxes, but because you're using the flashcards for every single lesson, I honestly just take the lids off of these and I set them up on the shelf where I can grab them quickly and I don't have to go into a cabinet. Now with math in particular, especially the first and second grade math, you might get extra workbooks. Like we have this counting book here and we have the calendar book. Because these are things that we're going to be using every single day, I'm going to stick those inside of my teacher's guide with the light unit, close it up, and then this is what I carry around. Now that we're using Christian Light education for a lot more than just one subject, I have two different bins. This is going to be our reading and language arts light units, and then this one is going to be our math. So I'm just gonna make sure that all the light units are in order so I don't have to deal with that later, and then I'm gonna stick them in the bin. Some subjects with Christian Light education, you're actually going to need two teacher's guides. There's like a part 1 and a part 2. You'll switch to part 2 halfway through the year. I'm just gonna put those in with the light units since I'm not gonna be needing those just yet. Of course, I'm gonna run into the problem. This bin is not going to fit on the shelf, but I'm not going to deal with it. I'm just going to lay it on its side. And I can still pull the new light unit off of the top. Everything that you just saw me throw into the cabinet, those are things that I don't need daily. Those are things that I'm gonna be pulling from later. I'm gonna show you how I organize the things that I am going to need daily. Okay, so right over here, I have another one of these plastic bins, and this is our daily work bin. So I know when I look at the schedule for the day that whatever we're gonna be doing for that day is going to be found in this bin. Because Christian Light education does have so many components, you can see like I showed you with the math, I have everything stuck inside my teacher's guide. So when it's time for math, I simply grab this whole thing and take it to the table. Same thing goes for the reading with Christian Light education, except it does have a separate little reader book that they read from, and that won't fit inside my teacher's guide. So I just pull out the whole thing. That's the reader book. There's my reading teacher's guide. And then the light unit that we're working on is right inside of that. And then lastly, we have our language arts, same deal, teacher's guide with everything stuck inside of it. Now up here is where I put all of the finished light units. And this is where things get a little crazy because as you can see, all of her finished light units, they take up a lot of room. And inside of each of the light units, I do stick her unit test that she completed. So that's her Learning to Read 105 test. I stick that inside of her light unit and then I put the whole light unit on the shelf. But it's becoming quite clear to me that there's not really a reason to keep the entire light unit. I could just pull out the individual tests and keep those as a record. But there's just something special about these. Like she's worked so hard and I have a hard time throwing them away, but I have multiple children and I know one day I'm gonna just have to get rid of them and keep the tests. So the way you can look at it is that cabinet is the Christian Light education unit workbooks that I'm not needing right away, but that I'll pull from as we finish units. Then we have our current work bin that I pull from daily. And then we have our completed light units up there on the shelf. Hope that helps.